Hard Talk today comes from the Royal Ballet in central London. My guest is one of the world's greatest dancers, Carlos Acosta. He was born in Fidel Castro's Cuba. His father was a truck driver, and for the last 2 decades, he's been thrilling audiences around the world with his power and his grace. In ballet, he says, there is beauty and freedom. There's also pain and sacrifice. And could that be a sign that Carlos Acosta's career is about to move in a new direction? Carlos Acosta, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Right now, you're preparing for a performance of Romeo and Juliet in a new venue for you, the O2 Arena, and that fascinates me because it is not a traditional ballet venue at all. 15,000 seats to fill in what is usually a rock and roll venue. Are you daunted by that?
I think it's it's going to be a hard space to dance because it will lose that intimacy that is needed for ballet. Ballet, as you know, is a visual art. You have to be able to see it. You can't hear it, So you need to be close enough so that you can connect, with the ballet and the story and the expressions and so on. And so it's almost they're gonna have to rely on screening, so that those people high up, in the gods or wherever they are, they could see what's going on. But the idea is great. The idea is to reach out. The idea is to make ballet accessible for everybody. And this is a great idea. I really think that it's a really good cause.
You've been dancing for more than 20 years, and for many of those 20 years, I suspect people have been talking to you about making ballet more accessible, reaching out in more effective ways. Do you think during your career it really has changed in that respect?
I think it has. But I think we should do more. I think the whole world, the world we live in today, has to be represented on stage. And we had our recent history, slavery and so on. And so we need to push it to the limit to balance the situation, I feel, because everybody should be represented on stage, When you're going to see a ballet, I want to make sure that I can also be a prince and everybody can also be a prince, And I think that's fair, and I think we should do definitely more about that front.
Well, you've been a prince many times on stage, but I want to get inside your head a little bit, because not only do you go out on the stage, you give people enormous pleasure with your performances, but you go through, and you've talked about it very openly, incredible pain to do it. In fact, playing Romeo in Romeo and Juliet, you've said, makes you dance, quote, almost until I drop dead. It's a tough thing to contemplate as you go on stage, that this is going to put you through such agony, you're going to feel like dying.
Yeah, but it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. If you dance Romeo and Juliet, and those who had danced the role before, they understand what I'm talking about. But, pain it comes in the same package. It's part of our life because our instrument is our body, and it's almost impossible to be 100% pain-free when you have to expose, your body many hours of hammering and jumping and so. But it's wonderful. I always say that ballet or dance in general is the true religion, because all the amount of work that you have to put just for the pleasure of the audience, and at the end of the day it doesn't pay that much anyway, and so you really do it out of love, and that is a wonderful thing.
You have said several times in the past that frankly, you get a little bit bored with some of the classical repertoire, doing Swan Lake. I think you said it in San Francisco earlier this year. You said, you know, frankly, there comes a point when you're not really up for doing Swan Lake one more time. How do you, when you're doing these roles that people want to see you in, how do you keep it fresh, keep it new?
Well, that's, you know, going back on the Swan Lake, the problem is after you've done it so much, you know, there is no room for you to grow, you know, other than just try to keep your level as, you know, what people expect from you. But, you know, let's face it, you know, to fall in love with the swan, how many times you could do that, you know, and keep it fresh. So that's why, you know, I feel like, you know, I need that. I need challenges. And right now, at my stage, you know, Swan Lake doesn't challenge me.
And is that one reason why you find it difficult in Cuba, looking at the state of ballet there? Because I think you've described it as being stuck with a very traditional, small C conservative approach, which...
Yeah, definitely. The repertoire there, it's been stuck for a while. I think, you know...
Why? Why is that?
Well, I think it comes down to, you know, the artistic choices, I think. You know, it's not fair for the dancers. Dancers needs to be challenged all the time. You need to bring new water, new energy to the repertoire, or otherwise, you know, if you only have to look forward to another Giselle, another Swan Lake, another Sleeping Beauty, you know, where do you go? And then all of a sudden they are the world out there doing these wonderful works.
But this is the system that created you, created Carlos Acosta. If it weren't for the, you know, very disciplined, maybe a little bit conservative commitment in Cuba to old-style ballet, you wouldn't be the dancer you are.
No, but that has nothing to do. I mean, I love the system, and the system, it works, and it's great. But once you have the base, you know, you need to keep on and keep going. And you need to be part of what is, you know, going on out there in the world with new creations, you know. And when I'm talking about Swan Lake and the classic, I'm not saying in disrespect, you know. They are the most wonderful technique and the base of all forms of dance, you know. But at the same time, you know, you need to evolve. You do that, but you also had to project your dance to the future and to create new ways of expressions, or otherwise we are stuck in the vehicle that's been created in the 1800s.
Yes.
And where are we going from now? You know, we need to create our own vehicle.
Well, I want to talk more about your creative vehicles, because I know you're going in different directions, but before we get there, let's just stick in Cuba for a little while longer, because some people watching this will not know your story, and it is a remarkable story. And what strikes me about your story is that it really all hinges on your father, because if your father had not forced you to go to ballet school, coming out of a poor neighborhood, one of 11 children in a poor family, if he hadn't made that decision and forced you to go, your life would have been entirely different.
Yeah, I mean, my father was born in the 1918, you know, he's 93 years old. And, you know, I was living in a very run-down part of Havana, and so he really cared about my future because I was already, you know, a street kid. In the 80s, there was this fashion craze, you know, about breakdancing, yeah. And I had my own club of break dancing, you know, at the age of 9 years old, and I didn't like school very much. I didn't know what read was, what was a book, or anything like that. But I could dance, you know, break dance, and, you know, I used to do the Michael Jackson moves and all this sort of thing. And so my father saw that I was heading towards delinquency, maybe, and so somebody recommended this ballet school who was in the center of the city, and he didn't think it twice, and so the next thing I knew, I was on a ballet bar.
And you hated it? I
really hated it, because, you know, anybody who knows anything about ballet, when you start, you know, you are 9 years old, a kid, and you start learning it, it could be the most tedious thing, you know, all these movements, counts, you're falling asleep, you know, and a kid want to be able to, you know, be on the street and running and play football, which is what I wanted to do. And so, yeah, it was painful. The beginning was very painful.
So what converted you? Because it is extraordinary to look at the progression you made. By I think the age of 16 or 17, you were winning international prizes in Europe for your dance. And yet, just a couple of years before, you'd still hated it. What was that switch that flicked in your mind?
Well, I saw the National Ballet for the first time, and I saw the professionals jumping and leaping, and that's when I first fell in love with. But also, I always been told, you know, by the teachers that I had something. You know, I have an ability to learn quickly the moves and the movements, and I like that attention. You know, for once I felt like I could do something good, because I always had this complex that I was no good. And so all of a sudden, you know, teachers would choreograph me, would pick me, you know, in front of a crowd of people, and I like the way I felt, you know, by this attention, and you know, I wanted more, you know, and so I began to have this rapport with dance until I realized that it could change my life and my family's life.
And the one name that we cannot avoid as we think about the way you were, you know, groomed to be one of the world's great dancers is the name of Alicia Alonso, who, even in her 90s today, is still the sort of figurehead of Cuban dance. And for so many years, her National Ballet School was the place where Castro's Cuba could express this commitment to high art. And it's been fantastically successful, but in quite a regimented, very disciplined sort of way. And I just wonder whether you found it oppressive working with Alicia Alonso.
Not at all. I think, you know, Alicia Alonso, it was the founder, I mean, together with her ex-husband, they were the fathers of the dance movement in Cuba. They were the one that found the source where everybody else came from, and it's almost like our parents, you know. And I think she always had, you know, being a Cuban flag. She always you know, make the whole nation proud, and also you need to be very grateful for that. They're always gonna be the, you know, the founder of a movement, and always, in my case, you know, they're always gonna have my respect.
Well, you've maintained a very good relationship with her and with the National Ballet, and indeed with the Cuban government. But it seems to me you were extraordinarily lucky in a way, because many Cuban dancers, quality dancers, have not been given the option that you were given to pursue your career abroad. Maintain ties at home, but be allowed to go and expand your horizons overseas. How come you were allowed?
I was very lucky, and that's true. I was very lucky, and you know, I feel for those people that all of a sudden, you know, felt that they should go abroad in order to dance and to be fulfilled. I really feel for my fellow dancers.
Quite a few Cuban dancers. Even this year, we had in Canada 5 top dancers from the National Ballet Company defected. One of them, the principal dancer, he said, it's not politics, it's for artistic reasons. I need to expand, I need to develop.
It is a logical course, and it's something completely understandable, and we need to change that.
Would you have defected? If you had not been allowed to pursue your career overseas, would you have defected?
Probably. God knows, yes, probably. I mean, how many, if you don't have space to grow, what's your point, you know? It's like I did say, if all I have, you know, is at the end of the day to keep me alive, it's the sense that I'm going to go there, but I'm going somewhere. And every day I'm learning, and every day I'm expressing, and I'm evolving as an artist. If I don't have that, you know, what's the point? I'm not gonna have money. I have all my pain. I have all my, but the price that I had to pay. So if you close that, and then there is no point, you know. And so it's difficult to say, but probably I would have defected. I don't know.
But then, how do you feel? Because you're walking this very fine line, you know, you've maintained a good relationship with the government, but you've been allowed to pursue your career overseas. How do you feel when, for example, this year, you're given the top prize in the country, the National Dance Prize, everybody salutes you, and in the citation in the award, they call you, that is, the sort of officials who've given you the award, an artist who, quote, loves the revolution. How do you feel when you see those words?
Loves the revolution. The revolution, I am a product of the revolution, okay? I was very poor. If I was, you know, the same, if I would translate my life in here, I had no chance, probably, or anywhere else.
Really, you feel that? If you had been the same kid brought up in the United Kingdom, from that poor background, no way you could have been a top ballet dancer.
How I'm gonna buy the shoes, how I'm gonna buy my gear, how I'm gonna buy my education, how I'm gonna buy, you know, I had all that for free. You know, a truck driver who only a salary was maintaining a whole family. I was able to do it there.
Do you feel when you're dancing with stars from Russia, Eastern Europe, the United States and wherever, do you feel there is something distinctly Cuban and Latin about the way you do ballet?
I think so, yeah, definitely.
How would you define it?
Definitely. Well, you know, I mean, Cuba is a very eclectic race. You know, we inherit so many cultures along the way, the Spanish, the African, the Chinese, you know, it's a whole melting pot. And also being placed in the Caribbean with the sun and the sea and the drums, you know, you can't help to bring your Cubanness into your art form. You know, at the end of the day, everybody has a different way to express love. And, you know, if you are Cuban, you have a way. If you are Russian, you have another way. So we bring our own identity into whatever roles, you know.
And if there is something so distinctly sort of Cuban and Latin about your art, it seems to me then there's something very complex going on in your life, because your art has taken you an awful long way from Havana and from Cuba, and you've said, you know, my heart still lies in Havana, but the fact is your career choices have separated you from your family, from your city, from your country, and I wonder how you deal with that.
Well, I deal with that creating of so many defense mechanisms, you know. I mean, it's easier now because I have my fiancée now, you know, and so it's always great to have a partner. But
sure,
I'm
sorry to be very personal about it, but she's not Cuban, is she?
No, she's British.
So you made a choice there too. I mean, I suppose, you know, you wrote an autobiography which was titled No Way Home. I just wonder if you feel you're moving further and further and further away from home.
No, well, yeah, No Way Home is that old neighborhood, Los Pinos, where of the 80s, where I was born. And of course, I'm never gonna be able to go to that home. I mean, I've been here, I'm dealing with all those, you know, thoughts and memories, trying not to think that much and trying to concentrate forward. You know, and at the end of the day, I'm very fulfilled as an artist, and artists do pay price. You always have to pay a price, and that's the price. But at the same time, you know, I wouldn't do it otherwise.
But I just wonder if you could imagine going back, because we talked a lot about Alicia Alonso. She is in her 90s. She can't go on forever. She's still the great sort of figurehead of Cuban ballet. When she finally retires, she's no longer able to do it. Would you like to be the next leader of the Cuban National Ballet? You know,
I always say no, because I had to find, Alicia, the National Ballet of Cuba is Alicia Alonso's work and her legacy. I want to be able to find my own legacy. I want to be able to find a dancer who will connect a bridge from Cuba to the world, so that you could come, you know, to my country, and if you want to study any dance just for a hobby or anything that you want to do, you could come there. Don't ask permission to anybody. You should go there and everything. I want to have my own company to create or to try to form the dancers of today. You know, a classical dancer who will be able to move from any different dance styles.
You want to find a fusion. I mean, because we talked about your training, deeply classical and conservative, but it seems increasingly in your dance life and your career, you want to find ways of building bridges to Latin beats and salsa and all sorts of other dance traditions.
This is the world. This is our world that we live into. You know, it's all fusion nowadays, you know. And a classical ballet dancer, if you really are a first dancer and a principal dancer, you need to be able to dance anything. You have to be able to dance contemporary, you have to be able to dance balancing, you have to be able to, you know, even to incorporate some of the capoeira movement that we could see in the contemporary dance today, plus be able to dance in a classical in the highest level. And that's the dancer. That's the dancer that we're looking for, you know, that could move from anywhere, and this is the dancer that I like to form. You know, don't limit ourselves into one tradition and one formation, but be able to absorb all the dance tendencies around the world.
How much longer will you keep dancing?
as long as I feel like I can still deliver the freshness, you know, and I still don't make a fool of myself, because, you know, I respect my audience too much for that, you know, and I still feel like I have something, you know, I still would like to keep. But that is, you know, maybe 3 more years. It all depends. But,
well, you know, you sometimes it seems your mood catches up with you, and you said things like, you know, the pain, you know, in my hips, and then you said, and every time I do the splits, oh man, and you ask yourself, is it worth it? And then you say to yourself, you know what, the art is beautiful and someone has to do it. But the point is, it doesn't have to be you.
Well, you know, I get there, but I still think I have, you know, what it takes, and I think it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to know when is it the right time. I mean, I'm still not falling. I think I still, you know, represent the quality that people still like from my dancing. So, it's not very far away now.
Really? Well, you say it with a smile, as though you're not frightened about the prospect.
I am. Listen, you know, ballet and dance in general has been an old marriage, you know. You know, when you had this relationship and you had this partner and you have kids with her and you spend, you know, 30 years married, but for some reason life, you know, it leads you to different paths and you don't feel, you know, that you could be together no longer, you know, you can't be together anymore. And then for some reason you still have the memory. This is the woman you love, gave you all these memories, but you can't be together anymore. Well, that's ballet.
You and ballet.
That's me and ballet. So it's very difficult, you know, to accept that truth.
On the other hand, you're taking yourself in different directions. Before we finish, I'm just very intrigued to know, I saw reports that you were writing a book. I mean, you've written an autobiography, but you were writing a book about Cuba and focusing on the story of particular individuals and a family going all the way from slavery in the 1800s all the way through to the present day. What's happened to that book?
It's nearly completed. I'm still, you know, I mean, editing and, you know, sometimes you don't know if it's any good, so I need readers and stuff. But the problem is I write in Spanish, and so it's very difficult to find readers here, you know, that could read in Spanish and give feedbacks and so on. It's quite, but it's a work in progress. It's already finished, which is, you know, changing a little bit the structure and so on. But I think it's something good, you know. I just pretend to have you know, for the reader to have fun and just to give some sort of like a sense of the Cuban history, but it's completely fiction.
Well, so, you add that very firmly at the end, but you say it's completely fiction. It's obviously made you think a great deal about your country, your homeland, about its history and presumably about its present too. Just the other day, Obama was talking about change in Cuba, and he said, you know, we see signs of change, but we need to see a whole lot more. Do you think Cuba is on the brink of maybe a Cuban spring? I mean, fundamental change.
I think it's changing. I think it's up to Cubans to change it, though, you know, because Cuba is our home. You know, it's wrong for anybody to come to your home and tell you how you should rearrange the furniture and put the kitchen over there. It's up to Cubans to change it, you know. And I think it is, not as rapidly as everybody expected, but it's better that way. Or otherwise, you know, it might be chaotic and it might change, but for the worse.
Carlos Acosta, thank you very much indeed for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Carlos.